Hello everyone, welcome to Anime No Mi, and thank you for joining us for another One Piece video. In today's video, we're going to talk about potential consequences that may be coming with Luffy's Fruit Awakening. Throughout the story of One Piece, most of the new techniques or transformations that Luffy manages to unlock have always come with risk to his life, and it's said that several times these techniques would take away his very lifespan more and more as he uses them. But Luffy's never really seemed to care about this, because he's always said that his friends' lives were more important than his own, so that Luffy might have a shorter lifespan than expected and could potentially only have a few years left to live. So in today's video, we're going to talk about the possibility that the fruit of the sun god Nika is shortening Luffy's lifespan more and more during its uses. And now, especially after its awakening, we wonder how much lifespan Luffy may still have and what could happen at the end of Luffy's life. Before we dive in, if you're new to the channel, we'd be absolutely honored if you considered leaving us a like or even subscribing with a comment letting us know what you thought of the video. It really helps us out and motivates us to make more content, and if you want to help us out in a bigger way, consider sharing the video or a channel with a friend. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So friends, with the awakening of the Nika model Hito Hito no Mi, it's given Luffy an increase in his rubbery attributes, and this has allowed his body to become more and more resistant than usual, and he's withstood several attacks from his opponents without any difficulty. This awakening also allows Luffy to have even greater freedom in using his power, and only his creativity is what limits this incredible ability. But as we know, Luffy has immense creativity in creating techniques and transformations we've just never seen before. We've seen this creativity in, of course, previous transformations of his Gear 4, and having 3 different transformations which make Luffy stronger in different ways, whether it's stronger, tougher, or faster, but each one works in a different way. The first and, of course, most well-known gear that Luffy has was Gear 2nd, the one where he was able to expand and contract his blood vessels and sped up the flow of blood around his body, increasing his metabolism, which caused him to need more oxygen and energy than normal. See, if you weren't a rubbery person with rubbery organs and blood vessels, your heart wouldn't be able to withstand this increase in blood pressure, but since Luffy's all rubbery, he's able to withstand it all. This technique also makes him so fast that a normal person cannot see him, and his metabolic rate increases so much that his sweat evaporates, making steam come out of his body. But by activating this technique, Luffy's lifespan is shortened as he activates this power because of the intense pressure his blood puts on his heart, and this damages his health, which makes it a dangerous technique to use for long periods of time. And this is why we've seen Luffy spend so much time perfecting the technique to be able to turn it on and off, because if he were to continue doing this, it would dramatically and drastically reduce his lifespan, and he might not be able to complete his plan of becoming the Pirate King after he manages to find the One Piece. But with awakening of his Devil Fruit, Luffy is shown to use this similar technique but with a different purpose. And even though we can notice in the same way the power became detrimental to his life, it may possibly take much more time away from Luffy's lifespan. During his Gear 5th transformation, Luffy displays great euphoria and confidence in this state. His heart beats in a musical rhythm, and it's described by Zunisha as the drums of liberation. In this transformation, Luffy also doesn't feel as much pain as he was in his previous forms, and seems to be much more resistant, and allows Luffy to use techniques in which he would harm his body, but really doesn't feel the impact from attacks or whether he defends. Luffy's hair and clothes also change white, and possibly because this represents the characteristics of the sun, and his eyes glow like white rings, and white clouds float around his neck and his torso. And this may be happening because of the heat that's being emitted from his body. These clouds might be similar to the vapor that we see in Gear 2nd, or even in Gear 4th. Now, we still don't have much information about this full transformation, but because of the intense amount of steam coming out of his body and the fact that he tires much faster, it could slowly cause his body to lose its vitality. Now, this is not at an exaggerated level, mind you, but just incrementally each time, because it seems just as Luffy's body reacts in Gear 4th, Gear 5th may slowly just ebb away and chip away at his lifespan. But this may not be the real reason why Luffy might lose his life. There's a technique that could become even more dangerous to Luffy if he uses it several times during combat. As I said before, Luffy's heart beats to the sound like drums, and the more it produces the sound, the more strength Luffy has. But as the sound decreases, so does Luffy's energy. If you compare this, it's very much the same concept when Luffy uses Gear 2nd. He's managed to create a technique that allows him to restore his energy after making his blood run through his heart much faster. And simply put, all of these techniques involve increasing Luffy's metabolism, which would cause his lifespan to decrease dramatically to the point that he may lose his life tragically. Even if your heart seems to be able to endure it, when you make yourself go over to the max or someone is pushing themselves beyond beyond what their body should handle. Although it may seem like it's invigorating, it's actually doing much more damage to the body than good. And the consequences might not show up in the immediate, but rather in the future. For although his life could have gone 80 or even in One Piece, where in some cases it's been said that humans live well past 100 years quite healthily, we might see that Luffy might not get that far. So although this is an amazingly useful thing during combat, it also comes with a very large disadvantage. And this may bring the decision to Luffy on whether he still wants to keep using this and if he wants to keep losing his lifespan. And especially because when we saw Luffy using this Gear 5th transformation, when he came out of it, his body seemed to melt. Now, we know that Luffy's always been able to modify his body by making his arm big and stuff, but in Gear 5th, he was able to make himself a full giant. But this could come with drawbacks as well, because the technique modifies your entire body, causing it to increase in size and modify your vascular system, and the larger the body, the more difficult it is for the blood to reach the heart and the brain. Because even though your body is bigger, the amount of blood stays the same, and it's not adequate for your bigger body that it has. So little by little, this is going to mean you have less oxygen running around in your blood, which also then harms your health. We've also seen Luffy inflate his bones and his skin in order to achieve a suitable size to be able to hit his opponents much harder. But this technique may also have a demand on his body more than we think. Kaido even said that this form of his is unusual and that it possesses the power of an awakened Zoan and a paramecia, so this technique could slowly take the life of the bearer if overused. And many in the community also believe that Joy Boy may have been the former owner of this fruit, and it's possible then that he could have lost his life because of this fruit. After all, we still don't know how he lost his life, but we do know that he had a very important thing to do and just wasn't able to complete it. The answer may also lie in the name of this fruit, because it is of course the sun god Nika. And by possessing great powers, an ordinary human may not just be able to bear these powers, because they're the power of a deity who possesses unimaginable powers. And of course, a human might only be able to withstand parts of this power, because all of the power of this awakening could slowly start eating away at the life of its user. And to be able to stay alive with this power for a longer time, the user needs to obtain these rubber characteristics. So it is the rubbery powers that allow an individual to acquire great endurance and the ability to modify their body so that the techniques from the sun god fruit don't be as lethal as they could be to their body. This fruit also symbolizes freedom, and it has a limitation on how much the user can stretch their arm or enlarge their body, or even is only limited by the user's imagination. So this rubbery characteristic would allow the bearer of the fruit to make their body adapt in all circumstances, and they could defeat any opponent. But this freedom may also come with a large cost, as it comes with the disadvantages of taking the life of the bearer faster as they use the powers in exaggerated ways. A very similar way that Luffy has been using them lately. But Luffy said it himself. He doesn't mind losing his lifetime as long as he's able to save the people he cares about. So even if it's risky, we all know our rubber boy. He's gonna keep using these risky techniques as long as it's necessary. Gear 5th also consumes a lot of energy to maintain, so we've seen that when Luffy was coming out of it kind of in the middle, it almost looked as if he aged with this technique. But it was being done, or it was really showing his tiredness in a much more profound way. Showing again, it's kind of wearing him down. So to go back into the Gear 5th, the user has to synchronize their heartbeat back into the rhythm of the drums and the drums of liberation. But as I said before, this could also cost a person lifespan. So it's possible that we could come to the conclusion that Gear 5th, even though Luffy's powers are amazingly risky for his health, it's really a good possibility this power is slowly taking his life bit by bit. And of course, since Joy Boy wasn't able to complete his mission, maybe this is why we saw his freedoms taken away by the world nobles, and he wasn't able to get there because the fruit ultimately took away his lifespan. But because Joy Boy may have also known that he didn't have a lot of time, he could have passed on his will and everything he wanted to do with his fruit, because although he had little time to live and accomplish his goals, his fruit would go on. And so this would mean that his goals could be achieved and picked up by his successor. So it was just a matter of waiting and time. So as we watch Luffy learn how to use these powers, we have to wonder how the overall effect is going to have. And even though this is an incredible fruit, it does not make the user immortal, nor does it have the ability to restore the user's lifespan. So it's impossible to really prevent Luffy from losing his life after using this technique. But we also know that Luffy's someone who's never going to give up, and he never gives up on his friends. But with this kind of idea, we could see where Luffy in the future finds himself in a very similar condition as Roger, with little time time left to live and his plan still unfulfilled, which will force him to find the One Piece quickly before he loses his life and doesn't complete his dream. So with that said, my friends, what do you think? Could Luffy's powers be putting his life in danger? Let us know in the comments below. So as we finish up, my friends, I want to thank you so much for watching the video all the way to the very end. Make sure you comment on any themes or ideas that you'd like to see in future videos. And also, since you made it this far, give us a like as you head out to take on the rest of your day. Hope to see you all in our next video, and let's keep sailing this giant sea together. Take care.